Looking back on the memory of the dance we shared beneath the stars above. For a moment, all the world was right. How could I have known that you'd ever say goodbye? And now I'm glad I didn't know the way it all would end, the way it all would go. Our lives are better left to chance. I could have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss the dance. Holding you, I held everything. For a moment, wasn't I the king? But if I'd only known how the king would fall, hey, who's to say? You know, I might have changed it all. And now I'm glad I didn't know the way it all would end, the way it all would go. Our lives are better left to chance. I could have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss the dance. It's my life, it's better left to chance. I could have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss the dance.
This is the age of AIDS. It was a great mystery to all of us. Before we knew what it was already with us. By the time the first cases of AIDS in the United States were diagnosed, 250,000 Americans were infected. Before we knew how to halt it, it was with the world. By the time the first cases were diagnosed in South Africa, millions were infected. The story of AIDS is one of the most important stories of our age, the epic story of scientific battles. It is as if this virus has 9 heads. You cut off one, it still operates with the others.
When you're down and troubled.
Political indifference. Because of the stigma, because of the shame, we've seen world leaders unwilling to accept the fact that HIV is a real issue. They want to sweep it under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist. But HIV and AIDS are here. Moral dilemmas. Even if these drugs were available at cost, poor countries couldn't afford them. But the perseverance of the human spirit, people unified in action, can achieve almost anything. One day the age of AIDS will be over. In the history books, we will be defined and described by how we did or did not respond to it. We have labeled AIDS as a homosexual disease. We have labeled it an African disease. We need to label it for what it is, a human being disease. This is the age of AIDS. This is Danny's story and how AIDS affected our family.
You've got a friend.
He shouldn't have been born, but he was. from the beginning, Danny had to fight for his life. My mom was exposed to the German measles during her pregnancy, and the doctors told her to terminate the baby due to all the medical and physical defects he can be born with. But my mom and dad had already lost a child. My older sister, Catherine, had died 2 years earlier. So my mom and dad decided to leave this baby's fate in God's hands, and God decided to leave it in ours.
And call my name out loud now.
My brother was born with some medical defects. He was born with only one ear, one functioning kidney, and a hole in his heart. But to my parents, he was a gift from God. Then the doctors told my mom and dad, due to the hole in Danny's heart, he would die by the age of 5. He didn't. With the extraordinary will that Danny had to live, my parents decided not to accept the fate the doctors gave my brother, and took him to a heart specialist, and changed Danny's fate forever.
All you got to do is call, and I'll be there, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, ain't it good to know that you got a friend?
At 11 years old, the heart specialist told my mom and dad that Danny had to have open heart surgery, and he had to have it sooner than later, or he would die. The surgery was a 50-50 chance of Danny's survival. My parents had no choice. Danny had the surgery. And I guess chance was on his side that day, because Danny beat the odds once again. Danny was our miracle.
Wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Oh, baby.
Danny was very small for his age. Being born with only one ear, he looked and talked different than most people. He was targeted by the bullies, because bullies don't know how to face their fear or the unknown. All they know is how to face it with violence and anger. And I remember Danny would hold his head up high, put a smile on his face, and just walk away. He never had vengeance or hate. He had courage. And if you needed a friend, Danny would be there.
This pain is pretty.